So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, everybody should have this page. And that page is only one-sided because these are notes. Okay? So everybody who has that page with them, this is what you're looking at. All right? So begin like this. I'm going to start with the first one, and I am going to tell you, this is where you guys start writing. I am going to tell you that all I know about the first one is that I have y is equal to x take away 3 plus 2. So I'm going to suggest that this is the only information I have. So that's what you're writing. Okay? All right. Now, I'm sorry, I didn't get it. All right. All right. So now comes the next piece. When you see this, I want to see if anybody remembers, because we haven't seen you guys. I haven't seen you guys in what, 4 days, 5 days. Where's the slide? Anybody remember that word? Where's the slide? Parentheses. So up here, probably on this line, I'm going to squeeze it in there, and I'm going to say that this is the slide. This is the slide. And then that means that this number must be the other word, which is the what? So this is my shift. Now, if that's the slide and the shift, okay, I need you to kind of see if you can remember the next piece, which is, if it says x minus 3, which way do I slide? Anybody remember? So because it's minus, should I go to the left like it says, or do the opposite? So we go to the opposite. And the shift, which is a plus 2, means that I go up. Okay? Now, as I do that, I'm going to notice that I have a grid here, which is pretty much blank. Okay? So on this blank grid, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead on this blank grid, and anywhere, those of you who have your paper, you have your ruler also. For those with the tablet, you can do it freehand as well. And I'm just going to randomly do this. I'm going to pick a couple of spaces right above, and I'm just going to make a line that just goes across as straight as possible. And then right down the middle, more or less, go up as straight as possible. And here is my y, and here is the x. Mostly because I haven't given you an x and y axis, so you create your own. Those of you with paper, you can do it with a ruler. Those of you who don't have the paper, now technically you can put the ruler on the tablet and kind of make it. That does work, but it's a little bit more of a pain. All right. As soon as I know my slide and my shift are x minus 3 and then plus 2, then what that means is I put a big old X at the origin. When I put that big old X on the origin, then I follow my instructions with the arrows for my slide. And that meant 1, 2, 3, and then up 2. So 1, 2. I circle that point. And does anyone remember the name of that point? Thank you. So this is now the position of what I'm going to commonly call my vertex. The vertex is at 3, 2. Now, this idea of vertex, I'm going to take advantage of it here. And I'm going to put it with the real numbers, which was 3, 2. So I'm putting the word vertex right there so that I can see it. And then I am going to purposely pick my highlighter and then right down the middle where the vertex is, I'm going to draw a line that kind of cuts this right down the middle, like this. So I'm literally creating this line, and it has to go right through the vertex. What do I call that line? Anybody remember? Thank you. This is my axis of symmetry. Right now, this is just review. Once I have the vertex, then I start doing my skip counting. What's my skip counting numbers? 1, 3, 5, 7, as much as possible. So in here, I'm going to basically change colors, and I'm going to say, okay, 1 and over. 3 is next, and over. 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and over. Now for me, I actually had space to go up 5. So now I have a dot here, here, and here. The first one was 1, the next one was 3, and after that was 5. So I was able to do the skip count. The reason I have the axis of symmetry, which is that yellow line, is because as soon as I have my picture on one side, then I have my picture on the other side as well. So from the axis of symmetry, I make a copy on the other side. Axis of symmetry, make a copy on the other side. If this is 2 spaces across, this is 2 spaces across. And then the last one, 1, 2, 3. That should give me enough information to create what I'm going to respond to as my positive parabola. And it's a positive parabola for no other reason other than the fact that it keeps going up. So in here, I basically say I have a positive parabola. So I'll say that I have a positive parabola. As far as the picture is concerned, that pretty much does it. Okay? That takes care of the picture itself. Does anybody remember what to do with the square? How do I use that square? How does this equation help me with the square here? Anybody remember that detail? So let me remind you. Because this is a square, that means that the x minus 3 is going to be repeated twice. So I put it like this. X, take away 3. X, take away 3. This is the square part. The plus 2 is extra. But the plus 2 is right next to my square. So look, right next to my square, plus 2. Then it matches. Okay? Anybody call it out for me? How much is, since this is multiplied, how much is x times x? I heard x squared. negative 3 times x. And I'm being told to repeat. And I'm being told the last one is a 9. Now, my habit is that once I have these numbers, I break it apart into 3 sections. I call it 1, 2, and 3 by basically circling these two. And here in the middle is a big old plus sign. Even though I have a negative number, I don't care. I still have a big old plus sign in the middle. So these are my steps. Here is first, the middle is second, and this part together will be third. So in the end, I end up with y equals first, x squared. Second, what is negative 3 plus negative 3? So this is a negative 6x. And then 9 plus 2 together makes a positive 11. The only reason I've been doing those numbers is because then I'm going to start having you get into the habit of writing down what I'm going to call A, B, and C. A is always the number that's supposed to be in the front of the x squared. Because I don't see a number, I'm going to assume that the number in there is a what? It's a 1. So A is 1. B is the number in the middle. Not only is it 6, what kind of 6 is it? So put negative 6. And C is the last number. So the last number is 11. Final detail. I have A, B, and C on purpose because they actually show up on my picture. So if your grid looks like mine, you should be able to do this. From the origin, you should be able to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And this right here is conveniently C equals 11. From the origin, straight up. Then, from the, this is called the y-intercept, I go across, and this measures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So from the y-intercept across, that's where B is. But it's called a slide. So even though it's pointing to the positive, I'm still going to write this as a negative 6. So this is where these numbers end up. And by the way, underneath B, put an arrow that goes the opposite way. Because that arrow that goes the opposite way is the same as my slide. Okay? This is a lot of information. And not everybody has been here for everything. Today is just attempting to catch up as much as possible. Okay? Any quick questions before I move on? All right. So what I'm going to do is I will probably come back to this for those who are not done copying. I know there's different things happening. Um, but for those of you who did copy this, are there any quick questions on this? I know some of you are still in the middle of finishing. I'm going to ask you to do this. If you're still in the middle of finishing this and you happen to have your phone, take a picture. If you're still in the middle of this, let me get out of the way. If you're still in the middle of it, so that I can kind of move on, take a picture of it, and you'll just finish it up. That way, because I already promised a few people something, that way we can just continue. Now, on my paper, I'm not going to continue on the side. I'm going to purposely continue down here. I'm going to continue down. Okay? So those of you on the tablet, all you're going to do is you're going to, on your trackpad, you're just going to move it like this so that it moves down. And on that one, what I want you to do is I want you to start and on purpose create right down the middle as much as possible. Right down the middle. Make a line with your ruler if you have it, or freehand for the tablet, and make a line that kind of cuts it more or less like this.
Mister, which one are you on?
On the one right underneath. Yeah. So the one right underneath. And I'm going to say that this is where Y is, this is where X is, and then by changing colors, I'm going to say here is the origin. The difference in this question compared to the other one is that this time, all I'm going to tell you is that the vertex is right here. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I gave him enough space to put 4. So here, in this spot, is the vertex at -3, -4. Now the weird thing is that once I say that, I automatically know where the vertex is. I get my highlighter and I automatically start drawing my axis of symmetry. I see the vertex, I just draw that line. Okay? Vertex, draw the line. And because of the fact that these are my notes, I'm going to say again, this is my axis of symmetry. My skip counting, see, I don't have any information other than that one point. But because I'm kind of training you in a certain way, I claim I can still draw the parabola. As long as I remember what? What comes next? My what? How do I actually draw the curve here? I have no equation. I just know the vertex. I skip count. And my skip count goes back to being what? 1, 3, 5. So again, from down here, 1 and over. 1, 2, 3, and over. Always go over one space. The next one is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over. By the way, if you happen to have space, see if 7 fits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. For me, 7 fits barely. If it doesn't fit for you, don't worry about it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's right on the tip. So it's right here, right here, right here, and right there. Mirror image from the axis of symmetry. I put in here my mirror image. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's in the middle of my writing, but it doesn't matter. And even though I didn't have an equation, I had enough information to claim that I could create my curve. I am right back at having a positive parabola. By the way, I'm going to claim that because I know the vertex, I know the formula too. And for those of you who may not remember the formula, I'm only going to say this. I'm going to go ahead and leave a little bit of a gap here. And I'm underneath, I'm going to say y equals. I'm going to put it like this, squared, x with something, and then something at the end. Think of that as the skeleton, just the basics of it. The first one is going to be the slide. The second one is going to be the shift. All I know is the vertex is at -3. So my slide went this way. But because it went that way, what kind of number should it be? Positive. So positive how much?
3.
The shift went down. So the shift went down because that's how I got down here. And because it went down, what kind of number is that? Negative what? And even though I didn't have the equation, now I do. Which means that if I have this, I can now jump to the next step because now I have everything I need to finish the next step, which is relatively simple, right? Okay, let me show you. And I have in here, I heard already, x squared. This is a positive 3x, and that's a positive 9. I have my 3 sections, first, second, and third. Actually, third doesn't work that way. Third is this. And I can feel pretty confident saying that I have y equals x squared. In the middle, this is still the big old plus sign. So 3 plus 3 makes?
6.
So a positive 6x. And 9 take away 4 is plus 5. Up on the corner, let me just use this color for now. Up on the corner, I'll have A, B, C. A by default is 1. B is, C is, B is a positive, so I want to make sure I remind everybody that I go the other way because the slide has to be the opposite. From the origin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's C. C is 5. Then I go across. And I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So B is 6. And the arrow purposely goes the opposite way. So here is C, here is B. 1 is for A, that's automatic. Questions?
Oh, I thought it was good.
All right. So I have one last one, or two, but I'm interested in seeing some results. Finish copy for those who need it.
And she made us like lay on our stomachs and like so I felt music and then it like so
All right. So do it like this. All right. So I'm going to go to the next one in the bottom again. So I'm going to go to the bottom one again. Those of you who need it, take a picture of it. Is there anybody who still needs to take a picture of it? Going once, going twice. And I went to the bottom one. And the question is this. I'm trying to set these up on purpose so that you see different pieces of information. How would you react to it if the only thing you saw was this? If all you saw was that, I guess my first question is, do I know the equation? In other words, do I know what this should look like? If all I have is this, do I have enough information to work backwards and fill out everything else? So anybody care to tell me what goes for the slide?
X plus
So the slide is x plus 1, and the shift?
-4.
The shift is -4. The crazy thing is, if I have this, I actually already have my rule. I already have my equation. So in here, my slide is going to go backwards, and my shift is going to move down. And the only reason I know that is because my slide is always opposite, but my shift always follows directions. Okay? Now, in terms of my grid, how do I personally decide where to draw my x and y axis? The way that I decide has to do with my slide and my shift. What I mean by that is I try to decide how much space I need in the bottom so that I can actually shift down enough. And I decide how much I gotta slide so that I'm not too much on one side or the other. Now I know it's gonna move down 4 spaces, so that means I gotta at least give myself 4 spaces. Okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give myself 5 spaces. So I'll say that I have one, this is 1 space, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here I'm going to go ahead and draw my x-axis. And the only reason I gave myself that gap is so that I know for sure I have enough space for 4 to move down 4. Now for the slide, it's almost in the center. Like it's not going too much one way or too much the other. So for the other part, I'm just going to go kind of in the middle. And since I know that everything is going to occur from the vertex, from the origin, From the origin, I do my slide and I do my shift. So my slide is over 1 and down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That means down here is the position of what I am claiming is the vertex. And that happens to be at -1, -4. And that is all I have. So I'd like you to take about, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe. And with this information, finish the rest. I'll give you a heads up because I know where the vertex is. I automatically know where my axis of symmetry is. So don't forget that. That comes in very handy later. So I already know where my axis of symmetry is. And hopefully I know my skip count. 1, 3, 5, 7. So that thing where I do the arrows, it's always the same numbers for now. 1, then 3, then 5, then 7, if it fits. So see if you can fill that out by yourself. If you're stuck or confused, raise your hand. You can talk to the people around you. You can compare notes with the people around you. But this one, see if you can finish it yourself. For right now. Yeah. Leave it there.
this is lying sometimes.
This is other one.
No, more like into like art. Or just more but it makes my page for some so love it. You mean it makes it the sketch? I played Rust, but then I got I played the Forest. I beat it, and I have the new game. I just just like open world. The first one is good, but yeah. And I saw a little bit. I was there any one? So, what? Right, and dial or trash. I've tried playing Mortal Kombat, but I suck. If you want to memorize the combo. Yeah. What happened to get that one good doctor? You getting good? I want to see. You getting finished?
All right. So let's take a look real quick. I'm gonna ask like this. I'm only gonna do parts real quick. The parts that I think kind of give you everything else. So the only part I'm gonna give you here is the skip counting. So that's 1. Then that's 3. Then that's 5. And that produces all of these points. And because of this yellow line, which is my axis of symmetry, I now have my mirror image. So that I can create some kind of model of what my parabola should look like, which is still a positive parabola. So it gives me that curve. If you've done everything correctly here, this should say y equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. So I'm purposely going to leave this in the middle blank, because if you've done it correctly, that should be your answer. And the minus 3 came from combining these two. Okay? Doesn't work any other way. Which then means that A must be 1, B has to be 2, thank you, and C is negative 3. From the origin, 1, 2, 3. Exactly what I thought. There is C. I go across 2 spaces, so B equals 2, and it goes the opposite way. So everything matches. Questions? All right. The final one that I have for you is kind of like bonus. And I'm not sure how many of you will get it. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm kind of thinking a few of you will understand what's happening here. So does anybody need to take a picture of this? Go ahead.
Oh, I did.
How did you do it?
Yeah.
Anybody else need to take a picture before I move it?
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go down again to the last one in the bottom. And I'm kind of wondering if anybody can figure out what to do, if I then decide that the only information I'm going to give you is this. If I tell you that only thing I know is y equals x squared plus 6x plus 7, is that enough information to do everything else? And if it is, does anyone have any suggestions? So for this one, I'm going to purposely tell you here, A equals 1, B equals 6, C equals 7, and B purposely goes, let me undo, B purposely goes in the opposite direction. If that's all I have, ideas, suggestions? How do I get the rest? I mean, can I somehow throw this out ahead of time? Now that I know this? Yeah. I'll ask the question like this. Does anybody know what goes in here? X squared. Question, if that's x squared, then what's here? And? Right, so far so good. Now I gotta figure out what goes here and here.
Wait to get the 6.
To get the 6, I have to do what? That means that in order to get the 6, that was like my total, right? But that was the total off of 2 equal pieces. So if that's the case, this must be a, so that when I add, this is 3x. Now, so far, so good. Now, by the way, in order for me to get 3x, what did this have to be up here? A positive 3, which means that this repeats because it's a positive 3. But then that creates a little bit of confusion because this says 7, and I know this is not going to be 7 because 3 times 3 is actually 9. And so what would you say?
It would have to be -2.
So that means that the extra piece, take away 2, and that gives me the 7 that I want. See how that works? And if that works, then what's my vertex form here? So this worked backwards. So now what do I put up there? X plus 3 minus 2. And because I know this is going to be my slide goes that way, and my shift goes that way. And is that enough to make some kind of decent graph? Yes, right? Because I still have my counting. 1, 3, 5, still hasn't gone away. What do you think?